I've done a bunch of videos on luxury Grand Tours recently. I've gone all the way up to £50,000 in fact with them. Today I want to talk about 5 more Grand Tours that have all depreciated massively since their release. They are very exotic and special and fast cars, and yet they are way cheaper than you'd expect them to be. This is my first proper video back since getting married, so thank you all for your very kind words of encouragement. Look, there's the ring. Crazy stuff. And in the middle of this video, I'm going to give you a massive announcement. It's very important that you watch the middle part of this video, but more on that in a bit. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. Let's kick this video off with the BMW M8 Competition, a properly beastie Grand Tourer that looks exceptionally aggressive and was released back in 2019 for a price of just over £150,000 adjusted for inflation. Today you can get your hands on an M8 Comp for as little as £68,000, meaning annual depreciation of just under 14% and total depreciation of 55%. That's pretty good value for a car that comes equipped with a 4.4 litre twin turbocharged V8 engine, producing 616 brake horsepower, more than any car on this list, taking it to 60 in 3.1 seconds. That engine is actually the S63, which is the same block you'll find in the F90 M5, and it's the same name as another car on this list, but more on that later. It came as both a convertible and coupe, with the coupe being the cheaper of the two on release, but either way, despite the competition nameplate, it's not really focused on going fast on track. It's focused on absolutely eating up the miles on a long Grand Tour and looking good doing it, while providing you with some fun out on tight twisty mountain roads or equivalent. That isn't to say that it's bad on track though, as the M8 was the basis for the M8 GT race car, which actually came in 2017 before the production model was actually announced in 2018. So despite being a Grand Tourer focused on Grand Touring, it has race car origins. As it's a Grand Tourer, it only comes in automatic with the M-Steptronic 8-speed box, and it had optional carbon ceramic brakes, though personally for a Grand Touring purpose you wouldn't really need any more than the standard iron discs. Instead, I would save a bit of cash on the carbon ceramics and look for an example that comes with a tasteful smattering of the M Performance parts, because I'm a sucker for carbon fibre. You can get side skirts, a spoiler, steering wheel, rims, and a few other M Performance accessories. If you also get the M Drivers package, you can get rid of the 155 mph limiter, letting the car do 190 mph instead. Pretty mad, plus reliability has been pretty good so far, minus a few recalls. Next up we have the most expensive and most exotic car on the list, and a car that I've been in two minds about for some time. It's the McLaren GT, which is based on the 720S, but mellowed out a bit to become a little bit more practical, comfortable, and usable on longer journeys. It's slightly less supercar than the 720S, but a lot more Grand Tourer, and it's even been built with golfers like myself in mind, as you can fit a set of clubs into the boot. The reason why I've been in two minds about it is that the whole package is really cool, and I personally really like the car, but it's not really what you expect from McLaren. I would buy a McLaren because I want the supercar experience, and I would buy an Aston Martin because I want the luxury Grand Tourer experience. That's not to say that either brand can't make other things, it's just not the reason why you'd buy one of the cars from those brands. Kinda like if Dyson started making kitchenware. I'm sure it would be nice, but I don't go to Dyson for my knives and forks. Anyway, I'm rambling. McLaren are known for their depreciation, so it follows that this would be the second fastest depreciating car on the list, with a new price of £207,000 adjusted for inflation back in 2019, with prices now starting at £108,000. That means a total depreciation of 48%, annually just under 12%. It's typically found at around the £120,000 mark, and even at that, the GT is a lot of car for the money. It has a 4 litre twin turbocharged V8 engine producing 611 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in an M8 matching time of 3.1 seconds, but with the benefit of rear wheel drive fun. The interior is obviously focused far more on luxury in this than the 720S. They look reminiscent of each other, but the GT comes with nice luxury leather instead of the more stripped out carbon fibre and Alcantara look in the 720S, which aligns with the slightly less aggressive exterior and larger boot. I would say the only thing to be scared about really is the poor service record of McLaren, and some owners have had the typical electrical issues. Taking third on the list is a car that gained really positive reviews from journalists as one of the class leaders in the luxury Grand Tourer space. Sure, the badge isn't quite as exotic as the McLaren we just spoke about, but the Mercedes S63 AMG S facelift from the C217 generation is still a stunning Grand Tourer, with its 4 litre twin turbocharged V8 engine, which makes 603 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 3.3 seconds. Pretty mad. And for that performance you would have been spending around £175,000 new adjusted for inflation back in 2018, whereas now you'll find this for as little as £75,000, with most sitting at around the 90 to 100k mark. That means these have depreciated by 57% total and 11.4% annually, so by picking one up, someone else or some other people have already stomached all of that cost for you. So the pre-facelift S63 AMG came with the 5.5 litre block instead, and the facelift switched to this more modern 4 litre one. It also massively updated the design language of the car to be in line with the rest of the Mercedes lineup, and gave all-wheel drive as standard with a drift mode to let you get the car sideways with some Mercedes enforced safeguards. The interior is also slightly newer, and genuinely Mercedes have been making some of the best looking interiors, if a little bit lackluster in terms of materials recently. The benefit then of getting an S-Class is that it's the flagship for the brand, so the material choices are a step above many of those used in some of the other cars in their roster, but it was still a key point that reviewers and owners have complained about compared with rivals. Another big change was the gearbox to the 9G-tronic from the former 7G-tronic, which was only kept by the S63 AMG. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I wanted to interrupt it for just a second to give you a very important announcement. I've been making YouTube videos now for over 5 years. It's crazy, and in that time I've always wanted to do merchandise. I teased it a couple of months back, and finally I can tell you that the site is live. In the link in the description down below, check out carswithjb.com. You guys like cheap cars, I like cheap cars, I like cheap stuff. All the stuff's great quality. I didn't want anything that I wouldn't want myself. Genuinely, I wanted to do merch for such a long time, and I've finally come around to doing it. In fact, I wasn't going to do this, but let me show you one sneak peek very quickly. Here's my golf bag, and down here you can see one of the bits of the merchandise just chilling there on the bag. So if you like anything that you see and you want to support the channel, then do give it a buy. If you don't want it, then it doesn't matter. Videos carry on as normal. It's just a little bit of a fun extra thing to do on the side. I mentioned the McLaren GT segment of this video that if I was looking for a luxury Grand Tourer, an Aston Martin would come to mind long before a McLaren would. And with the recent announcement of the DB12, the DB11 is no doubt where the value is right now for a modern Aston Martin GT car. Back in 2017, adjusted for inflation, these would have cost you around £184,000. But today you'll be looking at a minimum of around £75,000, a pretty insane drop. That means that this is the most depreciated car on the list total at 59%. Annually though, that averages out to 9.9%. Again, this isn't your problem when you buy one used, because someone else has already suffered that loss on your behalf. Of course, hopefully they looked after the car well for you. The DB11 comes with a couple of engine choices, but we'll focus on the 5.2 litre V12 block, which puts out 600 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 3.8 seconds, the slowest car on the list to 60, but honestly, I don't think you buy an Aston to race people at traffic lights, because they'll probably be too busy looking at the car to try to race you. I very nearly included the most recent generation Bentley Continental GT in this video, as it's depreciated a fair bit since its release in 2018, but I feel like for the money I would rather have the Aston as a fast, luxurious, exotic car both on the outside and in. Even though the Bentley is a bit of a beast too, it just costs 30 grand more. But the DB11 replaced the stunning DB9, one of the best looking modern Astons in my opinion, so it had relatively large shoes to fill, and we've seen how massively the DB9 depreciated, so it should come as no surprise the DB11 generally made its way down so much as well. One thing Aston Martin had to do with this car was make it more reliable, as there had been a little bit of questioning around the quality of the 2000s cars, so the CEO of the company at the time, Andy Palmer, literally checked each of the first 1000 cars that left the factory himself. With that in mind, reliability on these has been very good generally, with only electrical and aircon issues to write home about. Taking the top spot in this list is the Porsche 911 991 Turbo S, Gen 1 or Gen 2, but we'll do our depreciation figures based on the first year of the Gen 1, 2013. If you'd bought a brand new one, prices started at £188,000 adjusted for inflation back then, which makes this the second most expensive car on the list new, and today you'll find them listed from around £79,000, still making it the second most expensive car second hand on this list. That's a real testament to 1, how expensive Porsches are, and 2, how relatively well they can keep value over long periods of time. In 10 years it has dropped in value therefore by 58%, which is 5.8% annually. But that kind of money you're getting yourself a 3.8 litre twin turbocharged flat 6 engine, which produces 552 brake horsepower, the lowest on this list, but it'll still do 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, making it the quickest car on the list. Now I haven't driven a 991 Turbo S, but I have driven the 992 Turbo S, which has been proven to do 0 to 60 in 2.2 seconds during private tests, and honestly the thing I found mesmerising about the car, which owners also attribute to the 991, is how it can be so mind-bogglingly fast and capable on the track, and then so sedate, almost like a VW Golf on the roads. The 991 probably offers some of the best value at the time of watching this video, given that it's still pretty modern, with more recent Porsche features, and reliability has generally been very good, with most problems resolved under warranty in the early days of these being on the market. That's why the 991 GT3 is also a pretty good car for the money, starting in the early 90k range. But the Turbo S really is a perfect if you know 911. It has unbelievable performance while maintaining good luxury, with the PDK gearbox exclusively, a true Grand Tourer above and beyond anything else in the 991 range. Thank you very much for watching this video, I do really appreciate it, and a huge thanks to patrons as always for their support. As I said, carswithjb.com to check out the new merchandise, and if you want another video on some cheap luxury cars, then click up here and subscribe down here.